Hello, welcome to Classical Greek Latin. This is Latin lesson number 9 for chapter 8 in Wheelock 7th edition. And today we're going to be going over the third conjugation, present system. Okay, so what that means, just a refresher, is conjugation. Colon means together or with. And the jug here is a Latin word which means to join, so joining together. So conjugating is when we do this to a verb. We join the stem with its personal endings in the singular and the plural, first, second, third, and first, second, third, and singular and plural person. So that is conjugation, in contrast to declensions, which are nouns. And declining, again, is a Latin word which means to go down. You recognize the word de in that word, de, decline, if you will. And that is listing nouns with their case endings, like ah, in order of importance as the grammarians have deemed it. Okay, so today we're doing conjugations, third conjugation. So we're doing verbs, and we're doing the present system. So let's review real quick the first and second conjugation. So let me get out my notebook here, and I'll write these out for you, just to refresh your memory here. Okay, so we'll use our sample words. So we'll write out the dictionary entry. So we'll do first conjugation first. This is first conjugation. Okay, so we have laudo, laudare, laudavi, and laudatus. I'm going to write tus on the end. I don't want to get distracted by that. Wheelock has The reason I put us is because this last principal part here is actually perfect passive, and so it can change its gender. It's a participle. But let's not get into that right now. So you can also make these ending laudatus, laudata, and laudatum. But let's not get distracted with that. So we have laudo, right? I praise. And this is how this word would appear in the dictionary. Okay? So laudo, I praise. Laudare, to praise. This is the second principal part. First, second. And this is what we're going to spend a lot of time on today. And then you have laudavi. And just for fun, this is perfect active. I have praised. Okay, so the I there, we're not getting into this today, but the I is just first person singular perfect active. Like the O here is first person singular present active. Okay, and then like I said, laudatus is a perfect passive participle, but that will come much later. But that's all the principal parts. So really, so far, we're just focusing on these first two principal parts. Today, we're going to focus a lot on the second principal part, the infinitive, right? So we know this is first conjugation because if we drop the RE off, we are left with lauda. And that ah tells us without any doubt that this is first conjugation. And that's important because we got to know what stem of the word lauda to add our personal endings to. Okay, so let's do second conjugation now. And we'll use our word moneo. Right, it means to advise or warn. Okay, now I'm going to do something important here. Typically, I don't pay a lot of attention to macrons, but here it is crucial. Okay, so I'm going to mark that long A, letter E in English, monere, and that's going to that's important, and you'll see why in a minute. Okay, so we'll finish this out. Monui and monitus. Okay, so that's what we have learned so far, first and second conjugation. All right, so now today we are learning third conjugation. And we're going to use the sample word ago. So I lead. And now listen closely here how I pronounce this, agere. It's not agere, it's agere. That E, that A, is short. It's still A, it's just not A, like monere. It's agere, it's short. Also, you could say it's a weak E, and it can change, but you'll see more of that in a second. All right, then you have egi, and then actus. Okay, actus. All right, so we're gonna do present, imperfect, and then future tenses here. So let me go ahead and you've already done that in the first and second conjugations. I won't bore you with repeating that, but if you do need a refresher, you can check that out in the earlier chapters. Also, we're going to look at page 501. Okay, but let's conjugate, join together, ago. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the stem of this word, which comes from the second principal part, just like in laudare and monere. Okay, so monere, you drop the re, and your stem is mone. Okay, so here you drop this re, and your stem is age. Okay, so we'll do present tense first. So we'll do present, and then we will write this out first, second, third person in the singular. And then we'll do it again in the first, second, third person in the plural. So this is going to be true of all third conjugation verbs, okay? So just as you would expect, we're going to have ago. Okay, so I lead. Now this is present, so I lead, I am leading, right? Now this is where it changes. Now this is where it becomes important to remember that the third conjugation, this E or this A here, is short. So it's A, not A, so there's less emphasis on it. So it's more prone to change, okay? And that's what it does in this conjugation, third conjugation. Instead of ages, like you would expect, moneo mones, is going to be agis. This is the biggest change here, okay? You're going to have agis. So that's you lead or you are leading, okay? But yeah, this is, well, the future is a little strange too, but let's finish with this, okay? So we have agis, and now this is consistent through, as you would expect from here on out, agit, okay? Agimus, agitis. Now, when you get to the third person plural, it's not going to be, you've seen this before, it's not going to be agint, okay? Just remember with our future endings for the first and second conjugations, bo, bis, beat, bimus, bitis, boons, right? Because that I changes to a U next to that nasal N. So we're going to have not agint, like you might expect, but if you understand phonetics, it's going to change to a U, okay? So aguns, okay? So that is the present indicative active. So let's finish this here. Indicative and active, okay? So we have the tense, the mood, and the voice. Active means the subject is the one doing it, acting upon someone else or something else. All right, so Wheelock goes to the future next. Let's just follow Wheelock. He knows what he's doing. So we'll do future. And indicative and active. Okay, so we got our singular and our plural, and first, second, third person, first, second, third person. Okay. All right, so this is where it is a little strange. It's normal to Latin, but it's not what you would expect. So you would expect bo for the future, bo, bis, bit, bimus, bitis, bunt, like we've seen for the future, the first and second conjugation, right? Here, we're just going to shift the vowel to a long A, long E, like in said age, it's going to be age, and then add our personal endings, right? Okay, so that's what we're going to do. So we're going to have, let's do the second person first. So second person singular, so we have ages. Okay, that's going to be long, ages. Age is going to be short. Agemus, it's going to be long. Agetis, long, and then againt is going to be short. Okay, but it's going to be the letter E in English, A. So all this is A. The only thing that's strange here is you're going to say agam for the first person singular. Okay, so this is I will lead, agam, ages, you singular will lead, agate, he, she, it will lead, agemus, we will lead, agetis, you all will lead, and then againt. You might be tempted to say agent here, but that's your English slipping in. It's going to be a hard G always in Latin. Againt. Okay? So they will lead. Now, it's important to distinguish this from the second conjugation verb. Okay? And let me show you what I mean by that, why this could be a little confusing. So let me conjugate for you moneo in the present tense. Okay, so we have future indicative active here. Let's do present indicative active over here. All right, and we'll do singular and plural. First, second, third person. First, second, third person. All right, so we're going to do moneo, monere, monui, monitus. That is a second conjugation verb, right? So first person is going to be moneo, right? I advise. And then you take that theme vowel, and it's going to be mones, okay? Mones, monate, monemus, monetis, monate. Okay, so this is present. This is second conjugation, right? But note how it looks the same to a third conjugation in the future. All right? So you want to distinguish and know where verbs come from. Okay? So when you memorize a verb, you have to know which conjugation it comes from. First conjugation is easy to spot. Second and third conjugation easily confused and often confused, right? Okay. So if you had monetis, say for example, and agetis in the same or those appeared in a sentence, you wouldn't, if you did not know which conjugation it was, you wouldn't know if it was present tense or future tense. So you would either have to look it up in a dictionary or figure it out from context, or do both. Okay, so that's the future. So we got present indicative active, and we have future indicative active of the third conjugation. Okay, now let's do imperfect. Okay, so we're going to do imperfect indicative active, and we're going to do, as always, singular, plural. Okay, first, second, third person, first, second, third person. Okay, now this is exactly as you would expect. Okay, so we're going to take the stem of the word, which is, again, age, short e, drop the re off the infinitive. And then we're going to, so let's write that out. We'll just write the stem out here all the way through. So we'll write the stem of age out, age, 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 age. I don't necessarily recommend writing out your conjugations like this always. This is useful to see how things are being joined together, but doing it always exclusively in this manner, where you write the stem out all the way through all the persons first and then add the endings, it can hinder your memorization and understanding. So I would do it both ways, where you write out the full form for each person, and then you can also do it like I'm doing it here. Okay, but yeah, we're going to take our imperfect endings. We know them from first and second conjugation. They're the same here. Bam, bas, bat, bamus, batis, bant. Okay, so we're just going to add that on. Bam, bas, bat, bamus, batis, bant. Okay, and then just as you would expect, all these A's, English E's, would be long. Okay, the macrons are not so important here. It's really important in the second principal part of the dictionary entry, namely here. That macron is very important to see there and to memorize, and to see that it's not here to also memorize that, and that will tell you the difference between second and third conjugation, which are most easily confused, like I showed you, in the present and the future tenses. Okay, so that is basically that. I think that should make sense. If it doesn't make sense, put any comments you may have in the, or questions and comments in the comments below, and I'll try to get to those. But let's go on through this chapter, and we'll just review a little bit here. Okay, so go ahead and read everything. I'm not going to read this for you, but just read all that. It's just going to explain everything that I've explained to you, and just succinctly, and it's nice to have it all spelled out for you like that. So go ahead and read those. Let's see here. Present infinitive. Okay, we just talked about that. And then present stem, present indicative. We talked about that. Okay. And then future indicative here. Okay. The B versus the A. We talked about that. But yeah, read through all that. It's a good review, and it's nice to have it spelled out like I said. Okay. Imperfect, indicative, active. We talked about that. All right. So this paragraph here, there are 4 irregularities when it comes to the imperative. Okay. Let's talk about the imperative real quick, and let me actually write it out for you. I know it's in your book right there, but let me just write it out for you real quick, and then we'll talk about these irregular imperatives. Okay. So, if you remember, let's say we'll do laudo, laudare. So I'm just going to write half the dictionary entry here, and then we'll do the imperative, and then so moneo, monere, long e, and then we'll say ago, agere. There we go. Okay, so we want to do the imperative, right? This is a command, so it's only in the second person. In Greek, it can also have a third person, but this is Latin. If you'd like to check out the Greek lessons, we have those on this channel also. But Latin imperatives only happen in the second person. All right, so let's do imperative. Okay. Imperative. Okay. Present imperative active. Okay. And note how I changed, it's not indicative, so the mood is changed to imperative, right? So it's present imperative active, not present indicative active, like I was leading up here, for example, imperfect indicative active. I was leading, just indicating what I was doing. Or this is commanding that something be done in the present that's not presently being done at this command. Okay, so remember, you take the second principal part. I'm omitting the third and fourth principal parts just for sake of brevity here. Drop the RE, and you have your singular da imperative. You, singular person. So let's just clarify here. Second person singular, you praise. Okay, and if we want second person plural, it's going to be, we're going to add the te on the end, right? This is all review. La da te. All right? Okay? And again, present, imperative, active here for moneo, monere. We're going to go to second principal part, drop the RE. We're going to have second person singular imperative, and it's going to be monet. Okay? You advise. You warn. Right? Second person plural. We're going to add the te. Monet. So drop the RE, get the stem, monet. And then we're going to say monet te. You all advise. You all warn. Okay, now this is where it's a little weird. Remember, we have a weak E here, we have a short E. So we're going to do, let me write this out again just for fun. So we have present, imperative, active, right? We want second person singular. Okay, so again, we're going to go to the second principal part of the dictionary entry, drop the RE off the infinitive, and we're going to be left with age, as we would expect. Okay, now remember, that's a short E, so it's subject to change because it's weak, it's short, not a lot of emphasis is given it, so it's easy to either go away, disappear, or be replaced by something else. And that's what happens in the second person plural imperative, is that it's replaced by the English letter I, right, E. So it's going to be not agete, it's going to be agite. Okay? So that's what happens there. And that's what happens with all third conjugation verbs in the imperative, except, well, let's just look at the irregularities real quick. So let's go back to your book real quick and take a look here. All right, so they give you an example, and they tell you what we just talked about, right? Is mite, okay, from mito mitere, right? I send, to send. The imperative is going to be mite, and then the plural imperative is going to be mitite, right? So instead of, because it's third conjugation, right? This is also third conjugation. So pono, or ponere, and it becomes pone, and then ponite, okay? So that's all to be expected. So what they're saying here is what's to be expected is you drop the RE and you have pone, pone. You drop the RE here and you have mite, okay? So the stem of the word is M-I-T-T-E. The stem of the word here is P-O-N-E. So the full stem makes up the second person singular imperative, present imperative active, okay? There are 4 words that don't have the theme vowel, in this case the short E, as part of the singular imperative. That is going to be dico dicere, duco ducere, and then facio facere. Facio's third IO conjugation, don't get bogged down with that right now, we'll cover that later on. And then fer, ferro, ferre, okay? So for the second person singular imperative, so present imperative active, second person singular, the theme vowel is not going to be included in that, okay? So it's just going to be dic, not dique. It's going to be duc, not duque. And it's going to be fac, not faci or face, okay? And then it's going to be faire, not ferro is very irregular, but it's not going to be faire. It's going to just be faire. Okay, so just memorize these 4 words. These are going to be imperatives. Okay, now if you're curious, the plurals are going to be as you would expect them. Okay, so you would have dikite, dukite, fakite, and ferte. Again, it's very super irregular, but this is what the plural would look like for ferte. Okay, and if you are curious, I've written down the page numbers here in Wheelock. Let me zoom in so you can see those. And you can go and look these up and get more of the background of these words if you're curious about all that. Okay? With that being said, let me show you something cool in your appendix. So page 501 is going to be very useful for you. So remember how I wrote out moneo in the present tense next to ago in the future tense to compare and contrast them. So if you go to page 501 back in your appendix, it's going to give you all the verbs that are possible in Latin. Okay, so this is where the whole book is summarized. Okay, so we'll zoom in here. So this is page 501 in Wheelock's 7th edition. And there you have it. So you have first conjugation, laudo, laudare, laudavi, laudatum, or laudatus as I write it. And then second conjugation, moneo, monere, monui, monitum. Okay. Ago, agere, egi, actum. Okay. You can write your 4th principal parts like this with the or you can do it with an us like I do it. It does not matter. I think the us is better pedagogy. It makes more sense, but either way is fine. Okay, we won't go into 4th conjugation or 3rd IO right now, but yeah, that you have everything there. Okay, so if you look down here, you have the present step or the present tense, okay, of a first conjugation. So laudo. Okay, so that's first conjugation. All right, first conjugation. So we have first, second, 3rd conjugation. All right, and then the present, imperfect, and future. That's what we've learned so far. All right, so you can see here where I circled the 2 items that could cause or that can cause confusion. That is namely the future of the 3rd conjugation compared to the present of the 2nd conjugation. Okay, so I circled those to bring attention to them to show you that you need to spend more time focusing on memorizing that aspect of these verbs, right? To keep them clear in your mind. And then you have your present tense here for 3rd conjugation, which is a little unexpected, but it is what it is. And that's that. But that's page 501. Very useful resource. And let me flip the page a little bit here. And I'll show you ferro real quick, just for fun. Okay, so we have ferro here. Okay, so ferro, very irregular. It's got its own section in the appendix. Okay, let's see if I can get this focused for you. There we go. Okay, so that's ferro, and that's on page 508, and it continues on. And then here, there's the present imperative active that we were just talking about. Okay. Yeah, so if I wasn't here to point it out to you, you could find it yourself in the appendix. All right. So that's that. Let's take a look at the vocab and make sure there's nothing too weird in the vocab. Okay. So the most important thing to remember here with this new vocab is your long A, that is English E, and your short A, English E, in your second and third conjugation respectively. So make that a point when you're memorizing these to note that, and then note the corresponding charts, conjugations that go with those verbs. Okay, here's the famous Cicero, Cicero, Cicerone's third declension. That's all very straightforward. Okay, flip the page here. Okay. So odd, let's talk about that. I got a star by odd. So odd is a preposition. It means to or toward, like coming near, like you're standing at the door, right? You're not inside the door. You're not leaning on the door. You are close by. You're near the door. You're odd the door, right? So odd would be, or door would be in the accusative case in that way. Odd is kind of like horseshoes, close. Unless, I guess, if you hit a ringer, it would not be odd anymore. But odd would be horseshoes if you're not very good, okay? Or hand grenades if you're in the army, or close but no cigar. That's odd. To or toward, right up to something, but not right on it. But you get the point. Also very interesting here is how these letters change when they are made into compound words, when they're added onto a word as a prefix, right? So you have capio plus odd, right? That odd is going to change to AC. It gets sucked into that C and becomes acipio. And then the vowel shifts as well. If you're interested in all the phonetic shifts and how all that happens, go to page 45. They spell all that out in great and marvelous detail. Some would call it painful detail, but yeah, go to page 485 if you're interested in why the vowels are shifting like that. I think it actually starts on page 484. Okay, so yeah, you have another sample here. Apelo from ad pelo, right? Okay. And then aspicchio from ad spicchio, or aspicchio from ad spicchio, right? In that case, the D just drops out altogether. Yeah, so when you see these things, an ah like that, or an ah plus a double consonant, typically is coming from odd, usually. Okay, and the point of learning how phonetics work is because you can theoretically put two and two together and not have to go to your dictionary every time you come across a new word. You can figure it out just by understanding what you're actually looking at by knowing how the letters have changed. Okay, all right. So let's look at X or A. Again, same word, it means out of, and it is a preposition plus ablative, okay, which makes sense, right? Ablative means carried away from, right? So out of, from within, by reason of, and so on, okay? And then they give you the exam here. Excipio, educo, right, to I lead out, is just because the X is not there, it still means out, right? Excipio here, the X stayed because it's easy to say with that hard C following it. Excipio, your mouth is already in that position, so they keep it, right? All this is about ease of pronunciation, whether or not the X stays or leaves, but it all means out, and it all requires the subject of the preposition or to be in the ablative case. Okay, so that's that. Again, page 486. It all ties in together. Page 45, 46, starts on page 484. Okay, this is all pretty straightforward. Ago is an interesting word. If you remember the New Testament in the Gospel of John, when Jesus is talking to Peter after his resurrection, he says to Peter, he's asking Peter, do you love me? And Peter says, yes, I love you, and all this, right? Because Peter earlier had denied Christ because he was afraid that he would be crucified with Christ if he did not deny him, right? So he feels bad about that. So Christ is helping him out and restoring the relationship there. But Christ, at the end of that conversation, says that one day a man will lead you where you don't want to go. And then John says, well, he says this to indicate the kind of death that Peter was going to suffer. And we all know Peter was crucified, but it's like, okay, John, how does a man leading you where you don't want to go, how is that like a clear indication of crucifixion? And the Latin idiom, expression for crucifixion was not, they crucified the man, is they led him to the cross. That was the actual Latin Roman expression, to lead to the cross, right? I guess we have an interesting expression like to indict someone, right? It means to like drag them into court in a way. So yeah, that's how the Romans would express that action of crucifying someone, as you lead them to the cross. That's very interesting, but going on, straightforward. Okay, so we have our disco discere. All right, I'll ask you. Do they tell you? No, they don't tell you. Disco discere. We know it's not first conjugation. Is it first? Is it second or third conjugation? Disco discere. Diriki. Discere. Versus dokeo, docere, doqui, doctu. Okay? Yeah, so the short E here, discere, third conjugation. The long E here, second conjugation. Very important, as you know, to distinguish those two. All right, everything else looks pretty straightforward. Let's take a look at the exercises here. Okay, so again, we have the exercises. I cover those on Patreon for our patrons. If you're interested in getting help with the homework here, the exercises and the Sententia Antiquae, consider going over to our Patreon page and subscribing. It's $10 a month, and I cover these two sections for all the chapters, exercises and Sententia Antiquae. I provide the translation and explain the grammar to you and all that. So check out the link in the description below if you're interested in that, and hopefully we'll see you over there. Okay, so the Sententia Antiquae goes to 16 there. All right. As a side note, some archaeologists, scholars think that this death funeral mask may have been a fabrication and not authentic, but that's just for fun. Okay, let's see here. Yep, you can check this out on your own. I do not provide translation for this right now on Patreon. If I get enough subscribers and requests to provide translations for these, I may provide another tier for that. But otherwise, it's just there for your enjoyment, for fun. And yeah, next chapter is going to be demonstratives, hic ille iste, and special use adjectives, right? But that'll be Latin lesson 10 for chapter 9. This lesson, Latin lesson number 9 for chapter 8, third conjugation. Okay? I hope that you have found this helpful and not terribly painful, and I hope this is all making sense. Make sure you're keeping up on your lessons, and feel free to leave comments and questions in the comments below. All right? Until next time, have a good day, have a good rest of your week, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.